If I had to choose one sentence to summarize my college years, it would probably be this: love is silent, but pain screams. I never thought I'd write these things down, let alone talk about Christian, the guy who entered my life with a small smile and eyes that seemed to hide an entire storm. But some memories, if not spoken, will stay inside and cut into every silence. My university was in a small coastal town, where the wind carried the smell of salt and long golden afternoons. People came here for the good programs or to get away from family. I came for both, and for a vague dream that in a new place, I'd stop feeling so out of place. I lived in an old red brick dorm, where the long hallways echoed with laughter and late-night phone calls. I met Christian for the first time in a modern American literature class. He sat in the back row, leaning against the wall, in a faded gray hoodie, his hair a bit messy. The professor was talking about the silence between the lines, about things not written but still present. I glanced over just as he looked up. Our eyes met and I felt seen through. Christian wasn't the picture-perfect handsome type. He had a slightly crooked nose, lips that often pressed together, and eyes that carried a weariness beyond his years. But that's what made me unable to look away. I'd gotten used to keeping distance from people, yet in just a few seconds, I found myself wanting to step toward him. After class, the professor paired us up for presentations. The names were read, and I heard Cameron with Christian. My heart raced. He turned, waved, his voice deep. "Hey, nice to meet you," I replied, but my tongue felt dry. We met at the library on Friday afternoon. Sunlight filtered through the large windows onto the wooden table where we sat facing each other. At first, it was just exchanging notes, dividing tasks, picking a topic. Then the conversation drifted away from books without us noticing. He talked about growing up in a mountain town, about his mom liking to plant flowers on the porch. I talked about my quiet childhood, about always feeling out of place. There was a moment when he suddenly went silent. His hand stopped twirling the pen. "Have you ever felt like you have to hide something to make things less complicated?" he asked, staring at the streak of sunlight on the table. I answered softly, "Every day." That's when he looked up, and between us was an understanding that didn't need words. We grew close through those shared silences. After class, we'd walk around campus, sometimes saying nothing, just listening to the rustling leaves. I got used to Christian's presence. His tall shadow under the streetlights and his warm, deep voice when he read passages he liked. One autumn evening, when the wind was cold enough to tuck our hands into pockets, Christian suddenly asked if I believed two guys could love each other and live normally, without hiding. The question seemed casual but cut like a knife. I wanted to say yes, but memories of judgmental stares choked me. I only said, "I don't know, but I want to believe." Christian smiled, a smile both painful and gentle. "Me too," he said quietly. And in that moment, on the empty path under dim lights, I understood. My feelings for him had crossed the boundary of friendship. It wasn't loud. It was silent like ocean waves at night, but beneath the surface was a churning I couldn't name. From then on, everything between us changed in ways only we could feel. My shoulder brushed his longer. Our gazes lingered on each other's faces a few beats more. Once in the library, when we both reached for the same book, our fingertips touched. Christian pulled back slightly, blushing, then pretended to look for something else. No one said anything, but nothing was the same. I started fearing that fragile happiness. Because my love was silent, but I sensed the pain. If it came, would scream so loud I couldn't escape. The weeks that followed passed in a rhythm both peaceful and terrifying. Peaceful because everyday Christian was somewhere in my sight. At the corner coffee shop, in the air-conditioned classroom, on the wide lawn behind the library. Terrifying because I didn't know where we were heading, or how that fragile boundary might shatter. We often studied together in the dorm's common room. That night, rain pattered on the windows, the smell of ramen and coffee mixing. The yellow light cast a small glow where we sat facing each other. Christian took off his hoodie, revealing a slightly wrinkled black t-shirt and a faint scar on his left wrist. I glanced at it. He noticed, paused, then instinctively pulled his sleeve down. "Just a small accident," he said quickly, but his voice sounded like he was lying to himself more than to me. I didn't ask more. I didn't want to tear open what he wasn't ready to share. But from that moment, I knew there were more shadows in him than his smile let on. Another night, we went to the beach near campus. The sky was pitch black, only distant house lights and the rhythmic waves. Sand cold underfoot, wind messing our hair. Christian skipped a stone into the water, the dark surface rippling then vanishing as if it never was. I hate feeling like I'm disappearing, he said softly, like you can sit in a crowd and no one really sees you. I laughed silently. I'm used to it, maybe because I learned to make myself small a long time ago. He turned, looking at me so long I had to look away. Cameron, he said my name slowly, as if testing if the syllables would dissolve on his lips. You're not small. You're just used to being quiet. In that moment, something in me vibrated. I wanted to say he was the first to voice what I couldn't admit, but I just sat on the sand, letting the waves lick my shoe tips, and let silence speak for me. Messages started coming more often. Have you eaten? It's cold, wear a jacket. I just heard this song, you'd like it. Simple words that my heart stored like evidence of something unnamed. Every notification made me helpless against the silly joy of just from Christian. One evening, the dorm power went out. The hallway pitch black. Someone yelped from tripping over a chair. Someone laughed to chase away the discomfort. I was fumbling back to my room when I heard Christian's voice behind me. Walk with me? I have a flashlight. The small beam swept the walls. We walked side by side in the faint yellow glow, our shadows stretching long. At the stairs, the flashlight died. My phone was dead too. The space plunged into thick darkness. I felt his hand seek mine in the void. Not rushed, not trembling, just a steady search. His fingers interlaced with mine like the most natural thing. No one spoke. There was only close breaths and my heart pounding wildly in my chest. When the power came back, we still hadn't let go. We both startled like we'd been caught doing something wrong. He let go first, smiling, but there was a thin crack in that smile. We mumbled goodbyes and went separate ways down the hall. That night, I lay staring at the ceiling, my hands still warm from his, knowing I'd crossed a line I couldn't return from. Yet not everything was gentle. Some days Christian went silent. Messages I sent showed red. In class, he sat far, eyes avoiding. I tried reasons, busy, tired, family stuff. But what really grew in me was the familiar fear that I was just a temporary fill for some void in him. One rainy afternoon, I caught him behind the faculty building, on the phone with a harsh tone I'd never heard. I'm fine. Don't worry. I know. No, I'm not coming back. He hung up, leaned on the wall, sighing like he might collapse. I approached. He looked at me, and for a split second, his face was like shattered glass. Helpless, angry, sad layered on. Then he masked it with his usual smile. Sorry, you heard? It's nothing. Christian, I said softly. It's okay if you're not okay. That made him go completely silent. Then suddenly he hugged me, tight. I heard his rapid heartbeat and smelled the comforting soap on his shirt. I said nothing, just hugged back. Under the gray sky, rain fell steadily. Under the narrow eaves, two guys huddled like seeking temporary safety. That day, leaving his embrace, I knew I was in love. In love without a soundtrack, without vows, just an unnamed presence. That love didn't need to be loud. It found its way to the deepest place and stayed. But in the moment of realizing it, a cold premonition ran down my spine. Pain, when it came, wouldn't politely knock. Early winter brought a chill that seeped to the bones. Trees on campus bare, stone paths damp and slippery. Everyone busy with finals, the campus cafe always packed. I still saw Christian often, but it felt like walking on thin ice. One wrong step and it all shatters. One Saturday night, the dorm had a small party in the lounge. Pop music blared. Smell of soda mixed with alcohol and buttered popcorn. I didn't like crowds, but Christian texted, "Come down. I'm by the foosball table." So I went. He wore a jean jacket, hair neater than usual. When he saw me, he raised his cup like a toast. "Cameron." His voice mixed in the music, but I heard it clear. We joked, played foosball where I lost badly. It seemed light, until a girl from class approached, slinging her arm over his shoulder. "You've been MIA lately, Christian," she said, then turned to me. "Classmate." "Yeah," he replied quick. "We're doing a project together." The weird dropped like cold water. I didn't know what I wanted to hear. Not a label, not a promise. But that curt answer twisted my gut. I smiled politely. She pulled him a few steps to show something on her phone. I saw them close and knew I was irrational for the sting. He owed me no explanation. We'd never named what was between us. I left the party early. Outside, fine snow started falling, white specks melting on touch. I walked laps around campus until my cheeks reddened. I laughed at myself. Loving someone who promised nothing, then blaming him for not seeing what I wouldn't say. A message came as I sat on the stone steps. "Where'd you go?" I didn't reply. Minutes later, "Can I come out?" I typed "don't," then deleted. Finally sent a vague location. Near the lit building. Christian came. His breath puffed white. "Cameron," he said, voice low. "You left without saying anything." "Just wanted fresh air," I replied, avoiding his eyes. We stood side by side, silent a while. Snow fell evenly like someone blanketing the campus. Finally, he said, "I'm not good at this. I'm scared I'll mess it up if I name it wrong." "Name what?" I asked, though I knew. He swallowed. The thing between us." My heart ached enough to laugh. "Do we have something?" For the first time, I saw Christian recoil like the question pushed him. He stared ahead, then said slowly, "I think so, but I also think, if I say it, everything changes, and what was my safe place might disappear." I breathed deep. "Christian, I don't want to be your temporary shelter you leave when the sun comes out." Wind picked up, fluttering his jacket hem. He looked at me, eyes full of too much. Then he did what I didn't expect. Stepped closer, gently, like asking with each footfall. "Cameron," he whispered, "I like you." Time slowed. I heard snow hitting ground, flags rustling on distant poles. It wasn't a grand confession. Small, trembling, but strong enough to break what I'd kept still. I replied, just as small, "I know. And me too." It wasn't a movie kiss with fireworks. Just foreheads touching, noses brushing, breaths mingling. He wasn't rushed. I felt his hand tremble on my cheek, and that tremble made me believe. When his lips met mine, the world didn't get louder. It went silent enough to hear my heart echo. We sat on the steps, shoulders touching. No one said, "forever," just a rare peace I'd never had. But happiness, it seemed, never stayed long in Christian's life. The days after, he was like two people. With me, gentle, attentive, sometimes goofily funny. But there were stretches he vanished. Unanswered messages, last-minute canceled plans. When he returned, he apologized with eyes more than words. One late night, he knocked on my door. His face pale, eyes red from lack of sleep. "Can I stay here a while?" he asked. We sat on the floor, backs against the bed. He didn't talk family, didn't say why his hands shook slightly. He just rested his head on my shoulder. I wrapped my arms around him without asking more. In that moment, I understood sometimes love is sitting beside someone's pain without trying to fix it. "Cameron," he said softly in the dark, "if one day I hurt you, I'm sorry in advance." My heart went cold. Why say that? Because there are things I can't control. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. And because love is silent, while pain. He trailed off like fearing the words. I held his hand tighter. I accept the risk. I believed I was stronger than old cracks. I believed this time could be different. I didn't know where that belief would lead. Just that I'd fully stepped into the storm named Christian. Outside the window, wind howled through bare trees. I heard no screaming. Everything was still. Too still, to the point I didn't realize silence could be an omen. There were days so peaceful I thought my earlier bad premonitions were just over-imagination. We studied together, ate together, sometimes sneaked off to the nearby small city on weekends to stroll the old streets and eat garlic butter toast at the little shop Christian liked. He drove, radio on indie music, his hand on the gear shift, mine hidden in my pocket to hide pointless trembling. On the wooden bridge overlooking calm water, he once said, "Sometimes I think we could stay here forever." I asked, "Where?" He shrugged, smiled. "In this exact moment." I didn't reply. I feared voicing it would shatter like water bubbles. But Christian's other version always lurked, a shadow that wouldn't fade. He started sleeping over more, usually after phone calls he wouldn't mention. Nights, I'd wake to him sitting up, hands on head, breathing fast silently. I'd touch his shoulder lightly. He'd turn, eyes like returning from far away. "I'm fine," he'd whisper. "Just a nightmare." I wanted to say, "You don't have to be fine," but my throat closed. I just hugged him from behind. In the dark, I heard his fast heartbeat and suddenly understood some battles must be fought alone, even when you desperately want to shield them. The day it all cracked clearer was a seemingly normal one. That noon, I waited for Christian at the cafe across from the library. My latte had cooled twice, my messages unread. I convinced myself, overslept at gym, dead phone. Tiny reasons lovers cling to. When he finally entered, I knew something was wrong. His coat wet from rain though the sky was just overcast, hair messy, eyes bloodshot from no sleep. He sat opposite without touching the water the waiter brought. "Cameron," he said, voice hoarse, "can I ask you something unfair?" I nodded before thinking. "Go ahead." He clenched his hands, knuckles white. "If one day I have to disappear from your life without explaining, could you not hate me?" Everything in the cafe sharpened. Coffee grinder, spoons clinking cups, glass door opening and closing. I looked at him long. "Christian, what's going on?" He shook his head. "Just asking." "No," I said, rare hardness in my voice. "I won't answer a vague question to hurt myself. You owe me the truth." He was silent. It stretched until I heard the wall clock tick. Finally, he sighed. "My family wants me home. Dad's sicker. Everything's messy. They don't know about me, about us, and I can't make it harder for them now." I sat up. "Go then. We can still." He cut in, gentle but firm. "Not like that. I can't be myself. And the first thing they'd take is you." Those words squeezed my heart like a fist. I'd never thought it so concretely. Our love faced not just personal differences, but invisible expectations binding him before I appeared. "I don't want to lose you," I said, voice cracking. "But I don't want you choosing between family and me." He smiled sadly. "I'm bad at choices. How I've lived is silence. Endure. Be the right son. But then I met you, and nothing's quiet anymore." I reached for his hand. "We can find another way." He pulled back, not in rejection, but like fearing the touch would weaken him. "Some things have no other way, Cameron." That day, he left the cafe first. The glass door closed, letting cold wind into the empty seat opposite. I stayed, latte cold, mind swirling with worst assumptions. I discovered the scariest isn't breakup. It's being left with unanswered questions. The next days dragged like endless winter. Christian avoided me, late replies or short ones. In class, late arrival, early leave. When I sought him at the dorm, roommates said he went home for the weekend. The guy added, shrugging. I kept busy with schoolwork, library shifts, meaningless chats to fill voids. But anyone mentioning his name, spotting a gray hoodie like his in the hall, my heart jumped. On the third night after the cafe talk, I got a short email from Christian. Not a message, not a call. An email like he needed internet infrastructure to measure our distance. "Cameron, sorry for vanishing. I'm trying to sort everything fast. There are things I don't know how to say without hurting you. I hope you'll believe I never pretended. Christian." No goodbye but full of ending. I reread until the lines blurred. I didn't reply right away. I feared my words would boomerang as blades. That night, I cried until exhausted for the first time. Not dramatic screaming, just silent, stubborn tears like the love I had for him. I understood the phrase I'd thought up. Love is silent. But pain, even soundless, screamed in my chest. I clutched the silent phone, facing the real possibility our love might end without being properly named. Outside the window, snow fell thicker. The city sank in cold white. I watched flakes stick to the pane then melt, wondering, would everything we had dissolve as easily? The next morning, I woke feeling the world shifted slightly, enough to make familiar things strange. Schedule same, alarm on time, but between times was a void named Christian. I waited one more day, then another. Finally, sent a simple message. If you're okay, just send a period. Sat there, blue, no response. By day 5, I couldn't take it. I went to his dorm. Hallway still smelled of detergent and cold pizza. His door still had the note, knock loudly. We can't hear anything. I knocked. Roommate opened. Christian packed up, he said, surprised at my face. Yesterday. Quick. Said family stuff. Left that night. I stood seconds, like missing a step and falling into void. Do you know where? He shook his head. Just home. Didn't leave much. Then remembering, he went in, rummaged, handed a rumpled envelope. Oh, this. He said, give it if you came. I took it, hands shaking. Door closed behind. I stood in the hall, hearing others' footsteps like distant city noise I no longer belonged to. I didn't open it right away. I took it to the lawn behind the library, where we'd sat eating sandwiches and complaining about tough profs. Sky cloudy, no rain or sun, limbo weather like my heart. Inside the envelope, just a folded paper. Cameron, I know I'm a coward. I know I should have talked face to face. But if I saw you, I wouldn't have the courage to leave, and it'd be worse for both. Dad's worse. Family needs me. There, I go back to the old role, the good, straight, proper son. I tried telling them about me, but it wasn't like movies we watched. No understanding tears, no hugs. Just silence and demands. I'm not choosing to leave because feelings are gone. Opposite, I have too many. I fear making you wait in uncertainty. Fear dragging you into winds I don't know when will stop. You were a rare silence in my life, but calls from unresolved things scream louder than all. I wish I was stronger, braver. But now, I only have strength for a letter. Don't hate me, but if you need to hate to forget, I understand. Christian. I read to the end, feeling like someone slowly closed a door, hearing each hinge creak. No, I'll return. No timeline, no map ahead. Just voids from one sorry to another. I folded the letter, pressed to my chest, and first understood pain that makes its own sound unheard. Everything between us always silent, light like footsteps on snow. Only when he left did I realize that silence held a long repressed scream. The following weeks, life went on as it does. I attended class, did work, evening library shifts. I still sat at the window table, afternoon sun slicing golden streaks on book pages. Everything same except the world lost one person's laugh. Friends said I looked thinner. Mom called asking if okay. I said fine reflexively. I didn't tell about Christian. Not shame, but not knowing his title. Lover, passerby, or beautiful storm I wasn't prepared for. Nights, city quiet. I opened inbox, stared at his old email without clicking. I kept the paper letter in a thick book, like pressing flowers in high school textbooks at 17. Part of me hated not throwing it. Another feared without those words, no proof it was real. I started morning runs, first to exhaust thoughts, then got used to cold air stabbing lungs. I discovered body has its language. When heart tires from missing, feet speed up like running from own sorrow. Occasionally, I spotted people with Christian's walk, laugh, backpack slung like his. They passed my life then vanished, leaving echoes like a song cut mid-play. One evening, at the old cafe, I absent-mindedly ordered his usual latte. Waiter asked extra sugar. I almost said he likes it bitter, but stopped. I no longer had right to speak his preferences as daily habit. What was us now scattered pieces of me and him. I opened my notebook, wrote then crossed out. Love is silent, pain screams. Third time I stopped. Maybe true but not the end. My love for Christian didn't vanish with him. It reshaped, deeper, gentler, like underground stream under winter ice. I don't know if he'll return someday. I don't wait by calendar, just keep a small space in my heart. Not for him, but for the part of me that learned to love and let go at once. One spring morning, when snow melted and new grass sprouted on the library lawn, I realized I'd survived life's longest winter and still stood. Some cracks never fully heal, but they teach breathing with a changed chest. I looked up at the flat blue sky. No message, no miracle. Just me, and a story without finale but full enough to keep walking.